My name is Michael, and today we'll be taking a look at the Setup tab in Poco from ThinkCrew. The Setup tab is where you're going to enter most of your basic information that will work behind the scenes as you continue to use Poco. And the tab itself is actually set up into a number of sub-tabs. There's the Show Setup tab, which is the tab you're going to see when you first click on Setup, DL Memo Back, Itinerary Email, Status Email, and Advanced. And we'll cover each one of these in detail as we continue. In the Show Setup tab, you're actually going to be entering a number of different pieces of information which you'll see throughout the program. You're going to enter in the production company name, the show title, the addresses for your production, and if you have more than one address, you can use these lines beneath, but if you don't need more address lines, just go ahead and leave them blank. It will know not to include those in your headers. You can also enter in all of your phone numbers, and you'll notice here that Poco has already entered into these fields a number of different types of phone numbers which you may want to include. If you don't need these, go ahead and delete out the names. So for instance, we're probably going to have a production office number, which we'll enter right here, and we'll have a separate number for accounting. But on this particular production that I'm setting up, I don't need any of the rest of these numbers. So we're just going to go ahead and select each one of these fields and hit the delete key and delete each one of these names. And like above, Poco is going to know not to include these spaces in our printouts, so we're fine. So there's our basic header information for our particular movie. The next field is the cast list header, which is where you're going to put extra header information for your cast list should you need to. So for instance, we may want to list the casting director, and let's say the director. And let me show you where this information is going to appear. If we go here to the People tab and then we go to the cast list, you can see here that that's where it landed. The remaining areas of the Show Setup tab actually allow us to change the names of some of the different fields that appear on the People tab. For instance, here are the distribution list labels. These labels are seen here in the People tab, right here, and are pre-populated by Poco when you first launch it. So staff and crew, script revisions, these are the pretty standard things that you distribute on a movie, but if your show has different things which you'll be distributing, you can change any of these around. So let's say I wanted to add storyboards and change, for instance, let's say the one-liner to a background day out of days. And you should also know that there's another convenient way to get to this particular part of the Setup tab, and it's right here from the distribution list. Just click Edit, and it'll take you right there. The last area here on Show Setup is the user-defined field labels. If you look here at the People tab, you'll see down here that there's a user-defined fields area. This is an area which allows you to put in your own field names if there's something particular about your show that you need to track that is different than other productions. And again, you can go right to it from either Edit or from clicking on the Setup tab. You can change these labels to, for instance, local labor versus distant labor. This might provide you a way to track local versus distant labor on a distant location. And of course, there are as many uses for this as you can think of. The next tab is the DL Memo Back. And as you might guess, this is the back of the crew DL Memo. Poco provides you with boilerplate language that you may want to use on your show. However, you may also have a production attorney which wants to use his own language. Either way, you can either change this information or just paste entirely new information into there. The next two tabs actually deal with emails, Itinerary Email and Status Email. Itinerary Email is created from the Flights tab, and the Status Email is created from the Shoot Date tab, and these allow you to customize the settings for each one of those. In Itinerary Email, the itinerary is of course going to go to the person who's flying it, so that will be the Email To field. However, you can also create CC and BCC fields if, for instance, you or someone else on your show wants to be copied on all travel emails. You just enter any email addresses like you would in any email program. And if you have more than one email address, just separate it by a comma. You can also change the subject, should you care to, and Poco's included a generic email message, but you may want to edit it and customize it to your own needs. The Status Email tab is almost identical to the Itinerary tab, except that it's going to control the status report emails that you're going to create from the Shoot Day tab. And in this case, you do have a To field, which you can include here, separating additional addresses with a comma, as you did before. And you can add CC, BCC, subject, and of course change your email message here as well. The last tab is the Advanced tab. And this tab covers some of the more higher level settings in Poco, which you may not commonly need, but if you do, it's important that you know how to use them. The first two are easy. These are the show welcome screen at startup. You can either check this or uncheck this. The show file size warning at first picture import. This is the warning that you're going to get when you first import a picture into the People tab. It will warn you to make sure that the file size of the picture is not too big. Otherwise, it can weigh down your copy of Poco and slow it down, and you can change these as needed. This bottom area of the Advanced tab is the Vendor Value List Relationships. And this may seem complicated for a moment, but let me jump out for a second to explain this by showing you how the Vendor tab deals with the Hotel and Cars tabs. In the Vendor tab, I've already created two car rental vendors. I've got Hertz and I've got Enterprise. And they are set up as car rental companies in the category pull-down list, right here, car rentals. And I'll show you why that's important in a second. Now, if I go to the Car Rental tab, and I've set up a new car rental for John Smith, when I select the car company from the pull-down list, I can see Enterprise and Hertz because I've already entered them here in the vendor list. And the Car Rental tab knows that these are car rental companies because I identified them here in this pull-down list as car rentals. Easy enough. But what if I'm on a show where I don't want to refer to these companies as car rental companies, but rather I like calling them rental car companies? Well, you can do that. At the bottom of all of the pull-down lists throughout Poco, you'll see an edit selection. It means you can edit the actual values in that list. And up here at the top, I can see car rentals. So I'm going to change that to rental cars. Click OK. Easy enough. And now I reselect Hertz, rental cars, go back to Enterprise, make Enterprise a rental car as well, and we're done. Except when I go back to the Car tab, there's nothing on my pull-down list. Now, what just happened? Let me show you. Let's go back to the Setup tab. The Vendor Value List Relationships boxes control what the cars, hotels, and ground transportation fields are going to look for when they try to identify items for their pull-down lists. So now that we've changed car rentals to rental cars over here, if I go to Setup and change car rentals to rental cars, go back to the Cars tab, and there's my vendors again. Because now Cars is looking for rental cars in the vendor list as opposed to car rentals. And this only applies to hotels, cars, and ground transportation in the Flights tab. You should feel free to change any of these names in the vendor pull down, but just know that if you're going to change names for hotels, cars, or ground transportation, that you'll need to also change them here in the Advanced tab. And that covers the Setup tab. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions about this, come find us on Facebook. We have a discussion area where you should feel free to post your questions, and we'll be happy to get right back to you, or our website where you can contact us via email. Thanks so much, and enjoy using Poco.